Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Andrew, and I'm so happy I have you guys here with me to discuss the second video out of this four-part series. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing an assignment called the Intentional Interview Assignment, which is part of my teacher preparation coursework. If you're watching this and you've never heard of this assignment, or even studied education, that's completely okay. My goal here is to walk you through what the assignment was, why it mattered, what I learned from it, and what feedback I received, and how that helped me grow into what I'm going to become as a future teacher. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and let's get started. So at its core, this assignment asked me to interview a practicing teacher and use that conversation to reflect on my own developing teacher pedagogy and philosophy. So, this is mostly centered around classroom engagement, management, or assessment standards, uh, technology like social media and AI, and how they're used within the classroom. Now, what really made this assignment different from a typical interview that would just be conducted generally is that this wasn't really just ask questions, get opinions, and it wasn't just about gathering advice either. It was about learning how to connect real classroom experience with the pedagogy and educational theory that we're learning. So, particularly a learning theory called constructivism, which I'll explain as we go along. So, let's dive in, shall we? So, what this assignment asked me to do first, we had to design an interview protocol, right? So basically, just a set of thoughtful, intentional questions, along with rationales explaining why each question mattered in the interview. And now, second, we had to conduct and submit a full interview transcript, and then third, we had to write an analysis memo where we reflected on what the teacher said and connected it through things that we learned in our coursework, especially about learning theory, technology, and student engagement, right? So this assignment wasn't just about interviewing somebody, right? Let's get that down. Let's get that into our heads, right? It was about learning how to think like an educator and how we can move between practice and theory, right? If that makes sense. So, this assignment mattered to me. It matters for teachers because, well, before I dive into my own work, I want to explain why this matters in teacher education. Okay, so teaching isn't just about managing a classroom or delivering the content that we have, right? It's about understanding how learning actually happens within the classroom. So, for example, how students build meaning, right? How identity and experience shape learning. Those are crucial parts to how we can approach a classroom setting and be effective when we're teaching this materials. We need to make sure that as teachers, we're designing environments that support the learning process for our students. And as we know, students have a lot of diverse needs. So those just need to be met in order for us to be successful. So, just in general, this assignment was important for us future teachers because it taught us to listen carefully to our experienced educators, recognize patterns in classroom practice, and critically examine those practices through a theoretical lens, right? So, let's get into the strengths of my interview. Specifically, let's start with the interview protocol. So, one area where the feedback was positive for the interview questions was student motivation, classroom engagement, grading and assessment standards, and the impact of social media and AI, right? AI is going to be a constant theme as we move along in these videos. It's just going to weave and weave together. We're going to talk about it more and more and more as it becomes a growing topic in our education, right? So there are questions that new teachers genuinely worry about, and the feedback affirmed that my protocol showed professional courtesy and awareness of the teaching challenges that my interviewee may experience. So I also tied one question explicitly to my course on technology and ethics, right? Um, which showed that I was thinking intentionally about how classroom tools shape students and their learning behavior, right? So, in short, my question showed that I'm really thinking like a teacher and not just a student completing an assignment. I'm really trying to be considerate here and really analyze what's going on within a classroom setting. So, those are all the well and good things about my assignment, but let's look at the feedback that also pointed out where I need to grow, right? So, while my questions were practical, they were mostly functional. So, they focused on how teaching works rather than how learning happens. Um, like I said, this course we talked about constructivism, which is an idea that students learn by actively building understanding through prior knowledge, like culture, social interaction, and reflection as well. And my protocol didn't explicitly ask about these things like students' meaning making or learning agency, classroom dialogue, or honestly how the students' identity shape their learning. And I feel like I could have been more intentional with that, especially because not only in this class, in LLED 411, I'm also talking about this how students' identities shape how they learn. And that is such an important topic that we're learning. And I know that my curiosity was strong, but my questions weren't yet theory forward. And this helped me realize that building a reflective teacher isn't just about asking good questions, it's asking the right kinds of questions, again, through a theoretical lens. Um, so, what about strengths of the interview itself? I conducted a full and natural conversation with a middle school teacher. His name is Peter Hebert. Um, very wonderful man. I've known him for 16, 15 years. A long time, long time. He went to my church back at home. I've known him for a very, very long time. And he just decided to become a teacher after he got his degree, which was not in teaching. And he realized that he was meant to be a teacher. So he's been teaching for the past 3 to 4 years. And he talked about how we can classroom manage and the strategies that go into that. Working with counselors, formative versus summative assessments, which are also important to understand as we teach. Uh, Adapting instruction as well for English learners, which is something that's been a big topic for me about the past year or two. I went to South America to Ecuador to teach English language learners, and that was a big, big topic about how we can apply strategies and how we can teach them, right? And how English only instruction is not beneficial for them. So that's also a topic we talked about, and dealing with social media and AI in real classrooms, right? AI, right? So I followed up on his answers and asked clarifying questions and showed genuine interest rather than just sticking to a script. I wanted to have a conversation with him. I wanted this to be genuine. I wanted him to know that I really was interested in what he was talking about. And this feedback affirmed that I listened well and allowed the conversation to develop organically. Authenticity is important, right, in the circumstance. And I think that, especially something like this interview where we're two people trying to become learners, I wanted to show my full respect for him. So, even though this interview was very organic and the conversations were flowing very well, the content leaned heavily into like behavior and compliance discipline and the systems that go into classrooms. And while these topics are important, they tend to center control rather than learning. So, what was missing were moments I could have paused and asked questions like, how do students build understanding, or what role does discussion or peer interaction play, which is actually something I am interested about, and I really should have asked him in that interview. And how do students' backgrounds affect engagement? Again, such an important topic. We've been talking about that in a lot of my classes recently, and it's a big, big topic in education. Um, in my analysis in my memo, I had some strengths as well. I connected the teacher experiences to constructivist learning ideas, and social emotional learning, um, and AI ethics. AI. I also reflected on how teacher expertise develops over time, and I acknowledge the complexity of the classroom decision making, right? Because there's so many things that go into building a effective classroom. Like he was saying how it's important to build standards on the first day. It's important to have a constitution on the first day so students know what to expect when they walk into the classroom. You can't just go in there willy nilly and expect them to sit down and listen to you and learn. You have to be very clear with how you're building your classroom and what you want them to do, how you want them to learn, how you want them to pay attention to you, and how you want them to behave, not just to you, but to other students in the classroom. You don't want them to be distracting, rude, or any of that. So I enjoyed this assignment a lot. I think I would have done it without it being an assignment. I think I could have had a genuine conversation with Peter. He's a very great teacher, very honest man. And in this assignment, I'm already asking pretty thoughtful questions and listening deeply and reflecting honestly and engaging with these complex issues like AI and student engagement. But I think what I need to do to continue developing as a teacher is to name these theories explicitly. So as I understand how I can work these practices and theory into my own teaching, I'm going to make sure that I have a strong theoretical backbone while staying grounded to real situations within my classroom and what can happen. So, my name is Andrew, and I appreciate you guys for listening to part 2 out of 4. Part 3, please go listen to it. It's gonna be awesome. You guys are gonna like it. I promise. It's gonna be great. I really hope to see you there. Any questions or comments, let me know. And my name is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.